All right, we've done some news involving the Atlanta Falcons and, of course, their search for a new head coach, the Arthur Smith experiment. We can call it what it was now. It was a total failure. Smith did not work out as the head man running this football team as the head football coach. And looking at who the Falcons are targeting to be their next head coach, I think reveals that Atlanta is making a smart move, executing a sound strategy to learn from the Arthur Smith mistake. Let's get into the report, and then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is according to NBC Sports. Antonio Pierce, obviously Raiders interim head coach, former NFL linebacker, is drawing some more interest in the head coaching market. According to multiple reports, the Falcons have requested an interview with Pierce for the head coach vacancy. Pierce, who went 5-4 as the Raiders interim coach in 2023, is considered a strong candidate for the Las Vegas permanent job. Atlanta also has reported interest in speaking with former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick. We covered that last week. And Rams defensive coordinator and former Falcons interim head coach Raheem Morris is also expected to be a strong candidate for Atlanta's vacancy. All right, when you look at these three targets, these are the three big names. I understand there have been other guys they've been looking at to interview as well, but these are the three big names that have come up in terms of a lot of mutual interest, or at least serious interest from the Falcons side. Antonio Pierce, I don't think they get him. I think he goes with the Raiders, but there's still some interest there. And of course, Raheem Morris is considered a strong candidate. And the Bill Belichick rumors are, of course, running around. A lot of momentum seem to be building in that direction. Obviously, when you look at these three guys, the first thing that jumps out is defense. These are defensive-minded coaches. But that's not what I noticed, right? When I looked at these guys, I looked at them as old school culture guys. Raheem Morris is an old school guy in terms of being, not a lot of flash. It's all about building a strong locker room together, working to build a great winning culture. That's what he's known for as an assistant throughout his time in the NFL. Bill Belichick, of course, the Patriot way, all about culture. Do your job. Antonio Pierce, we've seen what he did with the Raiders the second half of the 2023 season in terms of getting a lot of buy-in from the Raiders organization. Looking at these moves that Arthur Blank and company are making in terms of identifying who their next head coach will be, to me, it looks like the Falcons are going after a culture guy. I think that's the right move in terms of needing a new head man because the talent is there for Atlanta. They just need a guy who can manage the locker room and get the best out of all the players because I think that's where Arthur Smith really failed. So I think the Falcons are doing a good job in their search in terms of what they're trying to look for in potential candidates. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Falcons fans, in the comment section below, give us your preferred candidate to be the next head coach, whoever it is. Is it Belichick, Antonio Pierce, Raheem Morris, somebody else? Give us the guy you want to be the next head coach of the Atlanta Falcons in the comment section below. And if you want to support this channel and support our content, make sure you consider becoming a member. You'll find a link in the description box below to become a member. But Miles, let me throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on just what the Falcons are doing here in terms of their head coaching search?
Yeah, Nate, I think the Falcons are doing something very interesting and very needed for this Atlanta Falcons organization. I think really ever since Kyle Shanahan has left, they've kind of lost their identity as a team, especially once Matt Ryan left as well. It's just a team that isn't really, nobody has like that face of the team. Nobody has that, like, this is the Atlanta Falcons. Nobody really knows who they are anymore. It used to be like, oh, great offense, some key defensive pieces, but Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Kyle Shanahan, great explosive offense. They can put up a million points. Now it's kind of, I don't even know what it is. So when you look at these teams, you look at the NFL, you look at success lately, we see Antonio Pierce. We see already what he's done with the Raiders. No wonder the Falcons want to come and interview this guy. He's a big time culture guy. He's able to really inspire these players. You look at Dan Campbell. He's done the same type of, thing. He's come in, culture guy, really started reworking the Lions culture. They win a playoff game. Everything is gravy in the Detroit. Then look, maybe in Miami, Mike McDaniel. That's a guy. He's a different kind of culture guy, but nonetheless, he's a culture guy. He's more of like a friend, whiz kid, offensive genius type guy. Less of hard-nosed players, coach, I've been there, I know what you go through kind of guy like a Dan Campbell or an Antonio Pierce. But nonetheless, culture guys are dominating the NFL lately, and I am glad that the Atlanta Falcons have gotten on the bandwagon and said, hey, we want to try to find ourselves a culture guy. Because historically, you look at Bill Belichick, culture guys work. Recently, culture guys have also worked. I think that is the key here. You don't want to get too cute. Just look for a guy who can really start to build a strong culture and help the Atlanta Falcons get their identity back.
Because this team has talent, right? Like that's not the issue with Atlanta in terms of the young guys on offense and some of the veterans, of course, namely on the offensive line. The defense has a lot of great players, a lot of veteran guys, a lot of great signings. I like Terry Fontenot as a GM. I think he does a pretty good job. Look, the home field advantage, Atlanta is a great city. It's a great, in terms of vibe and environment. That stadium is ridiculous. A relatively easy division. Like they have a lot of things going for the Atlanta Falcons in terms of just executing on the field is the thing that they're just missing. And I think that goes directly to the head coach and to the culture and to the environment. I think Arthur Smith was just terrible in that. Look, I think he was bad at a lot of things, to be totally honest. Obviously, he's famously misused. Bijan Robinson did not give him enough touches, did not handle the development of Desmond Ridder very well at all. But I think a lot of that just stems to, as the head man, setting the environment, being the leader for the entire organization, especially the football guys. And that's just something that it's sort of underappreciated when you look at the great coaches, even Andy Reid, who's thought of a great offensive mind. You listen to the Chiefs players talk about Reid. They say, look, it all starts with him. He's the guy that sets the standard. The Rams under Sean McVay, he's a great offensive mind, but they say, listen, he's also the leader of this team. We follow him. We respect him. He sets the tone. We see that all over the place. And the great programs, the great franchises seem to be the guys who have the guys up front setting the example. And I really like the way you put it, Mize, in terms of who are the Atlanta Falcons? Like what kind of team is this? And a lot of that is set by the head coach, right? The Patriots, cold, calculating, methodical. The Chiefs under Andy Reid, efficient, but sometimes creative, right? You look at the Shanahan-led San Francisco 49ers, right? They're a team that comes at you in a lot of ways. They're smart. They're versatile, right? They have an energy and a vibe to them. The Dan Campbell-led Detroit Lions, they're reckless. They're adventurous. They're gamblers. They're renegades, right? They just play, completely loose all the time. That comes from the head coach. That culture comes from the head coach. Under Arthur Smith, what were the Atlanta Falcons? And I think that's the big question going forward. I think getting the right head coach in terms of the guy to lead this culture going forward is the smart move by the Atlanta Falcons. And it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. And I think it's the right decision.